Welcome to Cardinals Cover 2 with Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki. Cardinals Cover 2 is brought to you by Arizona Cardinals Podcasts. Visit azcardinals.com/podcasts. From Cardinals headquarters, here's Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki.
Brighter days are ahead for sure, to quote the general manager, and let's hope he's right. Let's hope it's this Sunday in San Francisco. The Cardinals and 49ers, it's week 5 here on a Football Friday. Welcome in to Cards Cover 2. Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki. And yes, I'm starving for a victory, and I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I have a good vibe, good feeling about this week.
Yeah, and you get that sense from the locker room, not that they're overconfident, but you would think a team winless maybe keeps it close to the vest, and we'll see, because this team needs a win in the worst way. And then they got to go to Minnesota, come home and host on a short week at Denver Broncos, and then they play the same San Francisco 49ers coming up after that. San Francisco, huh? All right, so we should be using the hashtag Let's Go.
Absolutely. Twice in 4 weeks, the Cardinals will play the 49ers, with the first matchup coming this Sunday at Levi's Stadium. A complete breakdown ahead on the show. But right now, let's take off and tell you what is ahead here on this Football Friday. The Cardinals must tackle better, and that's the understatement of the season so far. And we've got a staggering stat to prove that point here. We'll head to the Bay Area to know your enemy. And it's a hashtag Fits Friday. It's also hashtag Cards Cover 2. Your questions via social media a little bit later on. But first things first, the news of the day here. And we begin with the injury report. Marcus Golden and Robert Nkemdiche not on the practice field during the open portion to the media. Wilkes, though, said he was, quote, very hopeful that both would play. And I think their availability, because of what the 49ers do on offense, specifically running the football, and we'll break that down later, but you want to have a Golden and Nkemdiche on the field, so fingers crossed that those two will be on the field and available on Sunday.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to talk to Marcus Golden. I did talk to Robert Nkemdiche as he was leaving the locker room, and he gave me the thumbs up, barring any setbacks. I'm sure they're going to bring both of those guys out for pregame warm-ups and then find where they are. Golden is still knocking off some of the rust, and I think because of Benson Mayowa, it really gives them a little bit of a luxury there when it comes to the rotation. Olsen Pierre has played well over the last couple of weeks, so I do like the rotation, but according to Nkemdiche, barring any setback, he's good to go on Sunday.
Cardinals list 7 players as questionable for Sunday, and some of them are just nicks. Corey Peters is on that list, but he's been able to gut it through and not miss any game time so far this season. John Wetzel is on there as the 6th offensive lineman. And remember, Andre Smith, who has been out, will be the right tackle for this Cardinals team as he resumes his spot on that offensive line. By the way, the 49ers also list 7 guys as questionable, including 1 player as being ruled out. That is wide receiver Dante Pettis. And we talked about it earlier in the week, MJ. This 49ers team is banged up for sure, including 3/5 of their offensive line. But, you know, they know that the Cardinals don't care. No one in the NFL cares about your injuries. You just got to get the job done on Sundays.
Yeah, left tackle, center, and right tackle. You're talking about a guy that's played at a high level in Joe Staley on the left side, and the first-round pick in Mike McGlinchey. They all are nursing knee injuries now. Limited. Curious to see how much they did. They're all listed as questionable, but it wouldn't be a surprise if 1, 2, or 3 may not play, but you can't go into the game like that. On paper, you're assuming they're playing. You want to go against their best, but this could be a good opportunity for the Cardinals' edge rushers to get to the quarterback.
There's a lot of reasons why the Cardinals are 0-4 so far this season. Part of the reason is what they haven't been able to do coming out of the locker room, and that is their third quarter scoring. In fact, they've been outscored 28-0 in the third quarter so far this season. Something is amiss, and head coach Steve Wilkes addressed that earlier on Friday.
We got to come out and be aggressive, defensively the same way. We got to be able to stop the run and try to, again, create negative plays. And we got to come out of the locker room ready to put the ball in the end zone. And, again, I think that's been aggressive on the offensive side of the ball.
You like the adjustments you made at halftime?
Love the adjustments, things that we talked about. We just got to make sure we go out and execute.
Now, not only that, though, you look at the second quarter, they have given up 43 points, and then you mentioned the third quarter, 28 points. So of the 94 points they've given up this year, they've happened in the second and third quarter. We know the Cardinals have had a ton of plays in the first half and the first couple of games, but they've deferred a lot. And that first possession in the third quarter, that's where you make your adjustments. And again, Josh Rosen, the offense looked a lot different, so they're going to put more on his plate, but that's something to look for. If you're going to defer, you want to capitalize maybe late in the first half to try to get a field goal or so, and then come out in the second half and score a touchdown or get some points there. So, again, of the 94 points, 78 have come in the second and third quarter.
Sunday also marks the 300th career game for kicker Phil Dawson. Just 10 other players in NFL history have reached that milestone. Here is Coach Wilkes on that mark by his kicker.
I think it's huge, just from mere fact of him being in the league this long, to being, as accurate. I know that comes from an understatement based off what happened last week, but pretty impressive over his career. So I think that says volumes about him, and we just got to make sure we get him back on the right track this week.
Last thing on this news and notes here on Cards Cover 2, and that is David Johnson. We've been talking about why he was not on the field on 3rd and 2. Made the wrong read last week on that 3rd and 6. Coaches talk about trust, and right now there might be a little bit of a trust issue with Johnson as far as when they can put him out there, what he is able to do based off what the coaches think he can do. And we know that Johnson is very, very hard on himself, and I applaud him, MJ, for being accountable to the media. Yet at the same time, it does bring up concerns because he's making these mistakes. And if you keep making the same mistakes, then that's why a Chase Edmonds is on the field perhaps on a 3rd and 2, or you have to go a different direction on a 3rd and 6 because the play and the guy that you want running that play aren't the best fit at that particular time.
Yeah, he wants to be perfect, and you're not going to be perfect at this level because a lot of the game is played between the ears, and the other team sometimes figures it out. Now, I'm encouraged that he got 26 touches last week, 22 rushes. He was targeted, I want to say, 7 or 8 times in the passing game, caught 4 passes there. Again, I can appreciate him standing up there, but this was also happening in 2016 under Bruce Arians, and maybe Arians protected him a little bit more, but we're hearing more that David taking responsibility, which is encouraging to me, but they need him on the field. If this team's going to put points on the board, he's got to be on the field, but he's got to cut down the mental errors. Again, we talk about 10 guys doing their job. If one guy goes the wrong way, the play's going to get blown up, and I think that was a prime example last week on 3rd and 6, and hopefully he's able to, minimize his mental mistakes because there's one thing in getting beat, physicality. They get paid too, and it's going to happen. It's the NFL. But there's another thing, and I was listening to the Big Red Rage last night, and they asked DJ Humphries, Paul Calvisi, and Ron Wolfley, and Chad Williams was there, what's one thing that Ray Brown doesn't appreciate? And I'm paraphrasing here. He said, when it comes to mental errors, that's accountability. That's trusting the technique and everything else. So obviously, we're not part of those meetings, but the fact is that when it comes to mental errors, the offensive line coach, he doesn't tolerate them.
Those MEs that David Johnson consistently is making, or at least he says he is making, how big of a concern is that? It was asked of offensive coordinator Mike McCoy on Thursday.
David is a professional, and he's every week, every day at practice, every game, he wants to play the perfect game. You can't do that. I mean, you strive for that, obviously, but you're going to make there's going to be some mistakes. What David does is he looks at every route, every carry, every protection, and he looks at every little step, every little technique, but that's what the great ones do. So, we've been trying to give him the ball at times. We got more snaps this week. This is what we want to do with him. Not just him, but other players you want to get the ball to more. But that's what the great ones do. They're critical. They take all the blame, regardless whether it's deserving or not. That's what the good leaders do. He wants to be successful. He wants to be the best. He wants to play that perfect game. He strives for perfection every day out here. You look at the route in a game, and it's on a piece of paper. It says a certain depth, and he might be I got to get one more. No, you're playing foot. Go play. It's easy for us to all sit here, or us as coaches, after a game and say you should have pressed this ball and stayed front side. Well, you know what? He's ran the ball very successful for a long time. He's going to make a cut here and there. But I just think he wants to be great, and that's what the good ones do.
McCoy added later that Johnson's mental errors aren't as bad as Johnson thinks, yet Johnson even admitted when he spoke with the media on Thursday that it's tough for him to move beyond and focus on that next play. He, as in his words, is his own worst critic.
I definitely don't. I definitely think I have room for improvement, and I definitely think that I can perform better, especially on some of the plays. I'm always hard on myself, though, because I feel like that's how I improve, and that's how I get better, is because when I look at the plays I messed up on and try to improve on those, I feel like it helps me out. It's just more frustrating that I'm not doing as much as I can. I'm not doing my part when my number's called, when my name's called, and they expect me to do something, and I don't do it right, or I don't do it at all. It's hard for me. I overthink a lot. After a game, I'm up all night just thinking about the plays that I messed up on, and even in practice when I have a mental error, I'm thinking that throughout the whole practice, after practice, and I tend to do that a lot. And especially talking to a lot of these veteran guys, they always tell me it's not as bad and it's not as good as you always think. And like Jermaine's always telling me, move on to the next play, because when you dwell on the last play, it usually ends up hindering future plays.
I'm encouraged that the awareness is there, but in order for him to play faster,
you can't think.
You can't think as much. You're going to make mistakes, but he's aware of everything. He's trying to correct these things, but I don't want him out there thinking. If there's a hole there and you're supposed to go through it, yes. But if you see another angle, I'll take my chances with David Johnson. He has great vision. He's able to break tackles at the line of scrimmage. He's able to get to the second layer. So part of me says I'm great to hear that he's aware of things, but go out there and just play football. And then, come back next week. How many mental errors did you have? Okay, you got to work on that. But I want him to play free and not think as much, because we know how effective he can be when he gets past that line of scrimmage and he's able to break tackles, as I mentioned, get to the second layer, even the passing game. I just want him to go out there and play football like he knows, and hopefully he is not thinking about those mistakes, because if you're thinking about them, it's going to affect the way you play on Sunday.
Whether you're at the game connected to stadium Wi-Fi on your phone or watching the game at home from your couch, be sure to check out azcardinals.com/GameCentral. Follow the official game blog with live play-by-play updates and commentary from your favorite Cardinals insiders. Also, stats, video highlights, and all the pregame and postgame content related to this week's matchup against the 49ers. Again, that's azcardinals.com/GameCentral. Cardinals and 49ers, 1:25 is the kickoff from Levi's Stadium. That means 8:30 on Sunday morning. The pregame coverage begins on Arizona Cardinals Radio Network. Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki here on Cards Cover 2. A reminder, your questions via social media still to come here using the hashtag CardsCover2. Also, it is a hashtag Fits Friday. We'll hear from number 11 a little bit later on. But let's dive into this matchup on Sunday. Not sure if you had a chance to catch General Manager Steve Keim this morning on Arizona Sports 98.7 FM, but unacceptable is the word that he used, and he was talking about the tackling or lack thereof. How about, according to Keim, last week in the loss to the Seahawks, there were 22 missed tackles. I'm going to say that again. 22 missed tackles that led to 167 yards after contact.
See, I'm watching the same thing he is, and I didn't know that it was that much.
I mean, that's staggering. It's unheard of.
And then you throw in the 5 or 6 drops.
That bait right there, that's almost a combined 300 yards that went, combined went against you and went away from you.
Yeah, I mean, you just can't afford to give your opponent that. And I know it's been a point of emphasis. Using your hands, where are your eyes, stay in your gap discipline. In this defense, though, it's just not the front seven. The safeties are playing in the box. Budda Baker's playing Tyrann Matthews. He's a slot corner. Trey Boston's playing more in the box. Bethay has been in the box. But you also need your corners to tackle. And Patrick Peterson has done more in 1 month than he did the entire year tackling. Obviously, Ben Wickery he was one of those culprits. I don't know if it was one or two, but I know he missed a big open field tackle. So in this defense, it's just not your front seven. It's just not Josh Bynes and Dale Buchanan. It's your secondary who are playing close to the line of scrimmage, and it's your corners have to come off coverage and make tackles. So it's not one area, but that's too many. I mean, that's like 20 too many. I mean, I'm not saying you're going to go through a game because they get paid too. And
it happens.
It happens. Look at the Gurley play on Patrick Peterson. Patrick took a little bit of a bad angle. He goes around him. That's Todd Gurley. He's a Pro Bowl player. He's one of the best running backs in football. So you got to minimize those missed tackles.
If I was to tell you that Antoine Bethea, Budda Baker, and Trey Boston, 3 safeties, are your top 3 tacklers so far through 4 weeks, you would say what?
I would think Josh Bynes would be in that.
Well, he's number 4.
Okay. No, but
that's the fact that you've got your
that's
leading
their defense,
tacklers
though.
in the secondary.
Yeah, but that's their defense. I mean, again, it'd be nice to see Robert Nkemdiche had 7 tackles. I want to see Robert Nkemdiche get quarterback hits, tackle for losses, and pressure on the quarterback. That, to me, is important. So if he's doing his job, that's where the linebackers come in and shoot the gaps, and they can stop the ball carrier at the line of scrimmage, get a tackle for loss. I'm not surprised by that. I just don't want to see a safety lead them in tackles for the entire season. Now, Budda Baker and Boston are a little bit different than Bethea.
Cardinals overall, their rushing defense has been the main culprit. Over 140 yards they've allowed per game this season. That ranks number 31 out of 32 teams in the NFL. Defensive coordinator Al Holcomb asked this week, what is going on with the rush defense?
Yeah, well, the edge runs, it has shown up. It has been a problem. It continues to show up. And to be quite frank with you, we're not doing a good job playing with our hands on the edge of the defense. You know, we talk to our players all the time about not trading 1 for 1 in terms of if there's a blocker there, okay, I have to be ready to set the edge, but I have to stay alive. I can't just run sideways and get knocked out of there because it creates a huge, huge running lane inside. You have to buy time for the rest of the pursuit and the defense to pursue inside out. So some of that, a lot of it is our hand violence, plain and simple. Physicality at the point of attack, being able to extend and hold people off. And then other things, our angles to the ball have to improve. We have to take better angles to the ball. We have to understand blocking patterns. We have to get over top of blocks, set the edge, and play downhill. And that's the truth of the matter.
Now, what he says is understandable and sounds simple. It's more difficult in the course of a game to do that and execute, but at the same time, you don't want to be giving up 140 yards every single week on the ground, and we've seen it consistently, whether it's to the outside or up the middle.
I got a stat for you. 52% of the rushing yards they've given up this year has been on the outside. 52. Now, we know last week Davis towards the goal line, right up the middle. Go back to the Rams game. Line, Todd Gurley had 3 rushing touchdowns, even though one was outside of the goal line, the play that I was referring to on Patrick.
2-point conversion.
And the 2-point conversion, exactly. So, but I noticed this in week 1 with Adrian Peterson. Initially, it was running between the tackles, and then they found something on the outside, and we know it's a copycat business. We saw very similar with the Rams, the Bears, and then you go back last week with the Seahawks. I mean, they were able to get some of their, Mike Davis was able to get to the outside. So a healthy Marcus Golden would go a long way, but that means that Chandler Jones and whoever the opposite defensive end, they got to hold containment there. And then you got to hope that your defensive backs can come in and tackle these guys at the point of attack. In other words, not 6 yards on the line of scrimmage. So 52% is to the outside. Now, you just can't forget about the middle. But I think you're going to see that in more short yardage situations. When they're in 1st and 10, 2nd and 8, they're running to the edge and they're able to turn upfield. And Cardinals have had players there, but they haven't been able to make the tackle at the line of scrimmage. They've gotten 5, 6, 7 yards, and that tells me they have to show more containment, more discipline to seal the edge so some other guys can come up and clean up.
Cardinals will get another test this week. The 49ers do run the ball very, very well with Matt Breida and company. Here is Coach Wilkes with a breakdown on San Francisco.
I tell you, they look good. The 2 running backs they have, Breida, 22, Morris, 46. McKinnon, they lost. They haven't missed a beat. They're still running the football well. Garoppolo went down. Bethel came in against Kansas City, the next play, threw a touchdown. So we can't sit here and say who's not in there. Those guys are a good football team. They trending forward just like we trying to, and they trying to get on track just like we are. So we can't take them lightly, and neither can they take us lightly. It's the NFL, and you got to be ready to play football.
Breida, for a while, MJ, was leading the league in rushing. I understand it's early in the season, but his name was atop the list, so give him credit. Although the Chargers did a very good job last week holding him to 39 yards on 9 carries. Yet going into this that the focus, as it is every week, but more so because of the Niners' success, is to be able to stop the run.
Well, one thing that sticks out with Breida, he's averaging 7.6 yards a carry. Now let's go back and look at his totals. Week 1, 11 carries for 46 yards. Week 2, 11 carries for 138 yards. He had a 66-yard run. Week 3, 10 carries for 90 yards, and you mentioned. So he's only had 41 carries. It's a little misleading when you look at the 7.6, but we know running backs want to get the ball. I'm more concerned with Alfred Morris. He's carried the ball 44 times, 167 yards, but he's a guy that can also catch the ball in the backfield. Obviously he was buried in Washington. They made a signing. They lose McKinnon. So depending on if Breida plays, Morris scares me a little bit too. But again, it's not like he's a guy that's going to carry the ball 20 to 25 times a game. It looks like they're going more by running back by committee, and it could be based on down and distance. So be curious to see how they mix it up. But again, Jarrett McKinnon was going to be a guy that was going to get the ball 25 to 30 times, and you would have thought he would average over 100 yards per game.
Yeah, the Niners are doing this without their big free agent pickup, who tore his ACL right before the start of the season.
I thought it was a huge pickup when they signed. It was one of their first signings when free agency started.
It was going to be, along with Jimmy Garoppolo, really set the 49ers up here in 2018. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened, at least not with those two on the field. The 49ers, number 6 in rushing offense, Al Holcomb. It's his charge now to put his defense in position to stop that run.
The run game is a challenge. The wide zone, as I like to refer to it, is a challenge. The angles to the ball, and then the play action off of it is a challenge as well, because, historically, Kyle knows that we play downhill. And so by playing downhill, they're going to try to suck the linebackers up, the second-level defenders, and then hit the little in-breaking routes right behind them. So that's kind of been, the MO when he's gone against our style of defense, the play actions, the boots, and then the run game. It is effective. I think he's a really good play caller. I think he's an aggressive play caller. And he did a great job. I'm going back to when he was in Cleveland and we faced each other, and then obviously through Atlanta those years, last year, and then obviously this year. So there's a lot of familiarity on both sides of the ball. We got to do a good job of executing, reading our keys. We got to do a great job of tackling and getting to the ball this week.
And I don't mean to be redundant, but they drafted Beathard in the 3rd round, and he was basically to be the backup to Brian Hoyer. So they liked him, and they didn't know they were going to get Garoppolo when they drafted Beathard, and he's been in the system now his 2nd year. The guy's not afraid to sit in the pocket and take hits. He's got some ability, so don't get misled here. He's played against the Cardinals, and he was in that game last year. They were 0-9, and then they bring in Garoppolo, and all of a sudden they win a few games down the stretch. But he's been in that system, and I couldn't agree more with Al Holcomb. You're going to see some jet sweeps. You're going to see some bootlegs. You're going to see some play action. They try to confuse you before the ball is snapped, and if they see a matchup, they'll attack it. So it's not like we're talking about a 7th-round quarterback that's a great story. They drafted him in the 3rd round. And to me, when you use a high pick like that, you feel like he's part of your future. Now, granted, when Garoppolo's healthy, he'll be the backup quarterback.
And right now, Beathard's favorite target, because of the history that he has with tight end George Kittle. They go back to their University of Iowa days, and right now it's the tight end position that has been doing the most damage. And some of that is because you've got Pettis hurt, Goodwin hurt, and the wide receiver group just isn't doing its job. And we know that this Cardinals team over the past has had problems covering the tight end.
Yeah, and I was looking at Pro Football Focus this morning. He is the #1 ranked tight end, blocking and receiving. Now he's coming off a great game where he had an 82-yard touchdown. It was really maybe a 15 to 20-yard throw, and he's running down the sidelines, took a good angle, got to the end zone. Besides week 2, he's put up close to 90 to over 100 yards in the game, but he is the number 1 ranked tight end, only 4 games. Travis Kelce's in that conversation. Rob Gronkowski's in that conversation. But right now, based on blocking and receiving, he's number 1 according to Pro Football Focus.
You mentioned that touchdown grab. You don't usually see or hear tight ends with more than 60-yard touchdown throw receptions. But that play specifically, he's out in space.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like he would, took it into second, third gear, and the defense couldn't catch up with him.
No, and that's something that you would think he'd get caught by behind. I mean, he's got good size. He's not running a 4.3 out there. But I'm glad I didn't know that. I guess I didn't look what school he went to. But you're right; they were both at Iowa, and so he's got some familiarity with them, and it makes total sense to me. Throwing to the tight end is one of the easiest throws in the National Football League for a quarterback. It's right over the middle, but he was able to catch the ball, turn directions, and he used the entire field to get to the end zone. So you got to give him credit there. But the fact is they both have played together not only in the NFL now, but they also played in college. So you know how it is with Christian Kirk and Josh Rosen? He's familiar and he's confident he's going to catch the football.
Trust.
I
know if I throw it to you, you're going to catch it, and that's what's happened so far. Let's get to know Sunday's enemy a little bit more here on Cards Covered 2, and for that, let's head to the Bay Area as we catch up with Joe Fann, senior reporter with 49ers.com and co-host of 49ers Live. All right, Joe, I don't know if you've got a medical background, but let's start with the injury report because, one, it's an impressive list and just the names on that list and how that might affect the 49ers heading into this week's matchup.
Man, it's an immense list. This roster has been decimated by injuries in the most important spots. And you look at the big names to either sign or be brought in this offseason. Jimmy Garoppolo on injured reserve, Jerick McKinnon on injured reserve, 3 of the 49ers' top 5 offensive linemen, Joe Staley, Weston Richburg, a big money center they brought in free agency, then first-round pick Mike McGlinchey, all questionable for this game with knee injuries. They won't practice till Friday at the earliest. Their status very much in doubt. You look at Richard Sherman, the guy they brought in to be that standout corner, the leader on defense. He's dealing with a calf injury. He's out for a couple of weeks. They've been without safeties, Jaquaski Tartan, Adrian Colbert. Hopefully those guys getting back into the fold for the 49ers. But, I mean, at every level, you look at receiver, Dante Pettis, second-round pick. He's hurt right now with a knee injury. He won't play on Sunday against the Cardinals. Marquise Goodwin, very much questionable with a couple of injuries, going into Sunday's game. We'll see what his status is. So it's been quite an interesting first quarter of the season for the 49ers, and it just kind of feels like guys keep on falling. But, no one's feeling sorry for you, and everyone's got injuries, and that's why you just got to power through.
Yeah, it's the next man up mentality in the NFL, and let's start at the top. You mentioned Garoppolo, but in comes C.J. Beathard. How has he looked in his time under center?
Let me tell you, C.J. Beathard, I think, played better than anyone's expectations, except for maybe Kyle Shanahan and the rest of his teammates. He was pretty darn good in Week 3 against the Los Angeles Chargers. 298 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, a couple of picks that were both arguably not his fault. One certainly bounced off the hands inside the 10-yard line of Garrett Selleck and was intercepted the other way for about 75-yard return. But he was good. I mean, he was able to keep plays alive. This guy is absolutely tough as nails, takes a big hit, keeps on ticking, made some big-time throws, looked really comfortable. Like Kyle Shanahan said, gave the 49ers a chance to win, but, unfortunately, the team fell short.
Joe, clearly they liked him enough to take him in the 3rd round. Last year he gave the Cardinals fits. He seems like you can pencil him in for 250 to 300 yards. What are some of his upside, and what are some of the things they're trying to accomplish on offense with him?
Yeah, I think in general, Kyle Shanahan's favorite line is the game's not too big for him. And it's evident where there's times where you see young quarterbacks take the field, they've got that deer in the headlights look of, oh man, here we go. And it becomes real for him, and all of a sudden things are going so fast, and you're not able to process information, trust your eyes, and see what's coming in front of you. And so I think C.J. Beathard, in general, one, is a guy who's got a lot of confidence in himself, which is pivotal, right? And if you're going to take a big hit or have a guy drop a ball on you and you're not rattled, you're able to get back up and just keep going. And so I think things are slowing down for him a little bit. I think he looked really comfortable in Week 3 against the Chargers. Like I said, you don't go out and throw 298 yards on the road in the NFL by accident. This is a guy who knows Kyle Shanahan's system. Kyle Shanahan trusts him implicitly. a guy who can make all the throws, has had success with the deep ball. Obviously college connection. His former Iowa teammate George Kittle was huge for him in Week 3, the 82-yard touchdown. So I think there's a lot to like. I mean, he's very, talented guy, really all-around quarterback, is mobile enough, to avoid pressure. Did that a couple of times against the Chargers. So, I know that the team in general just has a lot of faith in him.
You mentioned George Kittle. Besides Week 2, it looks like he's gotten better over the last 4 weeks. Of course, the 82-yard touchdown last week. Your thoughts on how much they want to involve him in the offense?
George Kittle's a stud. I mean, just plain and simple. A guy who didn't catch a lot of passes out of Iowa. When he was drafted in the 5th round, frankly, were surprised to get him there. Everyone kind of tapped him, a nice blocking tight end for the 49ers, and they didn't see it that way. Granted, he's a great blocker. He's fantastic in that aspect, but he's got speed that is rare at that position. You saw that with his 82-yard touchdown catch last week, really running away from the Chargers secondary. This is a guy who is a go-to guy, and he's had a case of the drops a little bit, and so that's hurt some of his numbers. He dropped a big one in Minnesota in Week 1, but still put up 5 for 90, 5 for 79 in Week 3, and then 6 for 125 and a touchdown last week. This is a guy who is the go-to guy. He's been the best playmaker in the passing game for the 49ers through the first quarter of the season. And last year, I think you saw flashes and really came on strong down the stretch, had a 100-yard game in Week 17 against the Rams, but just was never healthy. Then he hurt his shoulder, and the first week of the preseason, you were worried maybe he was going to have to, struggle through injuries, in his second year as well. But, this guy looks healthy, and he's really just a fantastic threat. He's able to stretch the defense, beat you up the seams, and make those tough catches in traffic as well.
We're talking with Joe Fann, senior reporter, 49ers.com, co-host of 49ers Live as we preview Sunday's matchup in San Francisco. Let's turn it around to what the feelings are in the Bay Area, or the talk is on Josh Rosen now quarterbacking this Cardinals team, if there is. I know when you have a 1-3 team and an 0-4 team, sometimes it's not so much about the opponent but about yourselves. But what is the buzz, if there is any, about Rosen now leading the Cardinals offense?
I think there's plenty of buzz, especially just kind of following the draft, the Cardinals trading up and taking him, trading with the Raiders to move up to what was his spot 10 and grab him. And you watch just some of the tape and some of the highlights from that game against Seattle. You talk about C.J. Beathard giving the 49ers a chance to win. I think the argument is very similar for Josh Rosen, gave the Cardinals a chance to win, a very good chance to win. Game, I'm guessing many would argue they should have won at home against the Seahawks. And so if you can do that in Game 1 against a divisional opponent, I don't care if that's not the same Seahawks defense that we've gotten accustomed to seeing over the last 5-6 years or so. That's still a tough team to play. It's still a divisional opponent. And to go against them and have a chance to win, I think it's something that's really impressive. This is a guy who's got incredible arm talent. And I remember having conversations in the building, and Jimmy Garoppolo already in the building at this point, so the 49ers weren't really in a market for a quarterback. But I know there was a sentiment around Josh Rosen and others in that draft class of there are some really special throwers of the football, and Josh Rosen arguably, the best of the bunch. And you talk about confidence, that's a guy that oozes swagger and believes in himself. And so, I think the 49ers are kind of throwing out those first 3 weeks of the Cardinals and really looking at Week 4 against the Seahawks and what Rosen did in that game, and there are a lot of good things.
All right, defensively, between DeForest Buckner and Solomon Thomas, we know they've invested high draft picks. Reuben Foster obviously missed the first couple of weeks, and he's probably got to get into football shape. What kind of role do you see him having on Sunday?
Reuben will be there every play. He was okay in Week 3, but didn't look like himself. He came out of the gates blazing. Those first 2 drives against the Chargers, all 6 plays, it was 2 3-and-outs. One of them resulted in a pick 6, but Reuben Foster is all over the field. Was an absolute menace in that first quarter and kind of fell off as the game went on. So, like you said, getting in that football shape, having that stamina to be that impact player throughout all 4 quarters, I think is what they're looking for from him. And he's a game changer. The 49ers have some good players at every level, but what they're missing is that game-changing talent, that guy who really can wreck a football game. DeForest Buckner is a guy who can fit that bill, but really Reuben Foster, that man in the middle, especially in this scheme where you look at Bobby Wagner, it's a crucial piece of what Seattle tries to do. It's a very similar scheme here in San Francisco, and Reuben Foster is the crux of it. And so, expect to see 56 a lot on Sunday.
Joe Fann, senior reporter, 49ers.com. Joe, we appreciate a couple of minutes here on Cards Covered 2 and look forward to Sunday's matchup.
Fellas, really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
I got to hand it to you, MJ. I realize you're athletic, but it's a heck of a quick change to go from, for those watching here on Cards Cover 2 to go from the gray shirt to the white Cardinal logo. That was pretty good.
Now, I could sit here and say that I use that shirt for interviews, but that is not accurate. We were able to catch up with Joe earlier, and we were doing different stuff, so I do have a different shirt on, just to let you know, unless you haven't noticed.
So Joe Fann from 49ers.com earlier this week. If it wasn't earlier this week, we'd have to go back and revisit the conversation that I saw you having with J.J. Nelson, Brandon Williams, who else was there, Chad Williams, about who was the fastest on the team. Because if that wasn't a quick change, I'm putting my money on MJ being the fastest player in the building.
Now, I was just having a conversation with them. They were over there, you know.
You got pulled into that. That was
no, but I asked the question. I'm like,
oh, so you started up?
I did.
Okay.
And because first of all, Brandon said he ran a 4.11, and I'm like, you didn't run a 4.11. No, I was a track star, and he's very fast. Okay, but if I had a guess, I was going to go J.J. Nelson 1, Rudy Ford 2, and Brandon Williams 3.
Yeah, that didn't go over very well.
No, Brandon Williams thinks he's number 1, and he thinks Rudy Ford's 2 and JJ's last. JJ thinks he's number 1, Rudy Ford second, and Williams is last. And Rudy Ford thinks he's number 1.
Of course. Everyone thinks they're the fastest.
He did not run a 4.11, though. That's how the conversation started.
Maybe his pro day? I don't know.
He's fast.
Yes.
Listen, last week we got a chance to see a glimpse of it on the kickoff return. Finally, he got a chance to take it out of the end zone. I'm telling you, and I know he doesn't play defense, but if he ever gets his hand on a ball, he has the ability to take it back. I mean, we talk about Christian Kirk, it's a matter of time. He does have the speed because he was a former running back in college and he was a track star in high school.
Cards Cover 2 here on a Friday afternoon. Still to come. We'll get the Bird Gang to sound off, and MJ can change once again here on a Football Friday. We got a black shirt handy for MJ, too. Just to answer your social media questions. That's what he does here. It's like the Academy Awards. He just changes like the host do every single
do we want to guess
what
color Brandon's wearing?
Yeah, we can,
Is it red?
Because
you got the gray and red. I got the white on. Hopefully he's wearing red. I haven't seen him yet, though.
Okay, well, we'll get to those here in a moment. Again, hashtag Cards Cover 2, using the number 2 to get involved in the show. And, of course, you can catch us here not only every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can also watch on azcardinals.com/live video. Catch us on YouTube. Just search Cards Cover 2. And, of course, you can download it as a podcast via Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, or TuneIn. It is a Football Friday. It's also a Fitz Friday. Hashtag Fitz Friday. Let's hear from number 11, the best of Larry Fitzgerald's Thursday Q&A with the media. By the way, on Thursday when he met the media, before he actually sat down, he was had to put on his Coyote sweater. The Arizona Coyotes kind enough to send sweaters to several players, and number 11 got his, the old school Kachina edition. The Coyotes opened their season last night. They've got their home opener Saturday against Anaheim. Let's hear from Larry Fitzgerald.
Throwback Thursday.
Throwback Thursday. I love the black ones, man. It's my favorite jersey. Starting the season today, I want to wish them the best. I love the whistle after the goals. I want to blow that horn one time. You know, like four or five times hopefully in February when Shane Doan gets his number retired. Let me ring. They're ringing a couple times that they get a big win on his night. I'm a creature of habit. This is what I've been doing since I was 6 years old at this time of the year. I don't look at it like it's any different. I'm as prepared the same way every single week. There's some good weeks, there's some bad weeks, and you know that's the way it goes. You just got to continue to stay the course and do what you've always done. Just lead by example. And this doesn't feel nearly as bad as starting 4-0 and then dropping 8 in a row. Things have always. There's always been worse scenarios. You know, obviously we're frustrated with the way we performed, and we know we have to play better. I think he's done a great job. You know, I don't have any problem with it. You know, it doesn't matter what the call is. Honestly, you know, players are executed. And that's really what it is. Well, you look around the National Football League, and you know, I think that's the biggest mismatch in the National Football League now is, you know, the Alvin Kamoras and the guys like that, David Johnsons, are able to split out on linebackers and safeties who are just, quite frankly, can't cover those guys. They're just too skilled. And so It's not just here, and you see it across the board. Yeah, Bob, you know, I've never wanted to complain or ask for anything. If it comes my way, it comes my way. You know, I'm not gonna lose any sleep. You know, even before he was starting, he always took a leadership role. I mean, he's taken ownership a long time ago. This is his team. He's gonna be the guy here for the next, 10+ years. Yeah. God willing, and I love the way he's kind of taking the reins, and he's vocal, and he lets people know exactly what he wants, and wants the best out of everybody. So he's this is not new to us. He's taken that role for a long time.
He said he's trying to persuade you to stay a little longer.
No, he didn't say that. No, he didn't say that. No, he did. No. Hopefully, I can be I'll be one of his biggest cheerleaders. Yeah. Well, I don't know any great players who have been easy on themselves about things that they feel like they left on the field, on the diamond, on the basketball court. I mean, Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, Michael Phelps, all the greatest ever are the most critical of themselves. They hold themselves to a level of play that nobody else, no coach, nobody else can ever. I watch myself on tape. I never see anything good. I always see only the negative.
Fitz, by the way, the subject of this week's Big Red Vaults as we flash you back to 2004, meeting against San Francisco in San Francisco. And by the way, Josh McCown is your quarterback. We'll let Dave Patch take you the rest of the way.
Backs are in an eye. Fitzgerald to the right, Johnson to the left. McCown back to throw, looking for Fitzgerald and throwing it to him in the end zone. Fitzgerald leaps. Fitzgerald catches it. It's a touchdown. The first career NFL score for Fitzgerald.
109 touchdowns later, Larry Fitzgerald still going strong here. He's got 110. And by the way, as I take a look at the game notes for this Sunday's contest, Fitz, more receiving yards against the 49ers than he does against any other opponents. 28 career games. He's got more than 2,100 yards receiving against the 49ers.
Now, you saw Fitz put on another jersey.
Yeah, he was kind of a little slower, though. He's not as fast as you. As we continue here on Cards Covered 2.
And Fitz, it's a horn.
What do you say?
Whistle.
Oh, that's true. It is the horn.
But he was asked, why didn't he play hockey growing up? And he said he played basketball. Like he grew up in Minnesota. He said, I played basketball in the winter sports.
Well, he could have done both.
True, but he wanted to play basketball. He wanted to play indoors.
Time for the Bird Gang to sound off here on Cards Covered 2. Brandon Natus, Cardinals manager of social media, joining us in the red polo. So congratulations on that. Did you have to change beforehand?
Thanks. No, I've worn this all day.
All right.
I am wearing red, but actually before we get to the questions, it's a Fitz Friday. And Mike challenged me last week to name all 19 QBs that have completed a pass to Larry Fitzgerald. So we're going to see. I come bearing gifts. We're going to see if I could do it in order.
Have you been studying?
Oh, I studied all last night and today.
Okay, so
that's why I probably almost was looking.
Are you going to go in order?
You just want to go any order?
In order of completion should be.
Wow, I don't know if I can do that.
Okay.
It's not going to be chronological. It will be the amount of completions. So we got Palmer, Warner, McCown, Skelton, Leinart, Kolb, Stanton, Anderson, Gabbert, Lindley, Hall, Bradford, King, Navarre, Bartell, Hoyer, Rattay, Rosen, St. Pierre.
Wow.
Very nice. And he did it, and you did it all in order.
Here's a screen. Nothing there.
Very well done.
That's how I got by.
Now, can you tell us?
That's impressive.
I can't tell you how many touchdowns.
Each one quarterback.
Stop.
Okay.
He did well.
I'm always asking for more. Don't settle here.
Next week
that was impressive.
We won't do all of the TD receptions that Brady has thrown. With 71.
That's 500. We'd be here for a week.
Yeah. Okay.
There's 71 different receivers.
That's right.
But I wanted to accept the challenge.
Thank you.
I
really wasn't. I was just putting you on the spot.
Yeah, so
you came prepared. You did research
a little bit.
Very
Studied in the mirror yesterday. Good thing I didn't crack under pressure. So we will get to the social questions.
All right.
No further delay. So, what was the feel at practice this week? Charged or depleted?
You know what? I haven't noticed any change even after the week 1 loss. I mean, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, the team is loose. They're getting their work done, and you can't tell walking into that locker room after any day that this team is still looking for its first win.
Yeah, I mean, we've the open portion of practice. They play music. You know, guys have energy. We don't get a chance to watch practice. Wilkes tells us, you know, if the guys had a good practice or maybe they weren't as good as they were last week, but we haven't heard that. You go in the locker room, and again, I don't think it's to a point where they're not caring. I think they realize, you know what, we can be a better football team. Let's cut out the mental errors and everyone do their job. And this game coming up this weekend is very winnable. So I haven't noticed the difference, and hopefully they can stack a couple wins together, and we'll see how they act then. But right now, I think they know that they've made mistakes, and that's the reason why they're 0-4.
And now you guys have been around the Valley for a while, seen good teams, bad teams. Would you say that that is not normal for a team to kind of be so hyped up, and do you think that's a good sign going forward that they are that hyped up?
I've seen some teams where you basically shut down and you let the day before or the week before factor into your upcoming week. But for the most part, it's what's happened has happened, and players do a better job of putting it in the past than coaches do, and certainly fans do.
I just think it's tough to compare other sports. 82 games in hockey. You're going to have back-to-back nights on the road, early start, get in the hotel late. The MLB, 162 games, basketball. So I do think there's a lull there, and hopefully they can break out of that. The beauty about the NFL, 24-hour rule, get to Wednesday, you got to forget about it. So, again, I just think this team is ready to get a win, and I was hoping that was going to happen in the last couple of weeks because it's been close. They've lost 2 games by 5 points.
And we talk about the team's energy. Thoughts on the coaching staff and how they've done with handling some of this adversity out of the gates?
Hey, look, from the head coach to the offensive coordinator to the defensive coordinator, they answered every single question. The only one that they've shied away from, and it was answered twice, was the 3rd and 2, why David Johnson wasn't on the field. After that, and that was a Wednesday question, it was addressed on Sunday, it was addressed on Monday, but outside of that, they haven't shied away from anything.
Yeah, yesterday Mike McCoy asked about the criticism on the outside, and he says, listen, we all know it. We're not thrilled what we've been doing. Al Holcomb talked about they can't stop the run. I mean, we're asking the questions, and they're answering them. Listen, I mean, that's why you got to go back to the drawing board and figure it out. And I thought the Cardinals' offense had a pulse last week. I think the defense has shown that they don't have to, shut a team out. Maybe they can get about 15 to 17 points, and the Cardinals can still win those games. So they've stood in front of the media, the coordinators and the head coach, and they've taken responsibility. And, again, I think that goes a long way in the locker room to where they're not calling out players. They're trying to get this thing figured out.
And now you alluded to the 3rd and 2 play earlier. So this question is, what can we do differently? This is more of a first down, but first down differently to stop negative plays or 1-yard plays from happening.
It's just the mental mistakes. You can't accept a penalty, and all of a sudden now a 1st and 10 is a 1st and 15, or there's a holding call and it's a 1st and 20. You can't get behind the sticks, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, win the one-on-one matchup, get positive yards. I mean, there's nothing worse than going out there and getting a false start or a delay game penalty. Now you're at first and 15. Well, all of a sudden that becomes more of a passing down. They want to come out and try to establish the run. So win one-on-one matchups, get 3 or 4 yards on first down, get 2 or 3 on third, and then tee it up on third down, where you get maybe 4 yards to 6 yards in your first 2 downs. So it's not brain surgery here. It's just going out and winning one-on-one matchup. It all comes down to execution, blocking and tackling.
Did it seem like the team last week was performing a little bit better on first down and not getting into as many negative situations?
Yeah, I mean, because they came out and established a run, we saw play action. They ran more play action last week than we did in the first 3 weeks, and so they're able to. And Josh is willing to hold on to the ball. I thought he did a good job. I thought the pass protection was much better than the run protection, and he has the ability to move out of the pocket, step up in the pocket. So I think there's things you can build on that game, and I think they're going to open that playbook up even more for Josh Rosen this week.
Speaking of Josh, this is the last question here, and obviously a lot of people are, after one game, saying that he's the franchise QB, and some people say, hey, pump the brakes, it's only one game. But this fan wants to know, given that Rosen seems to be the real deal, can the Cards salvage a winning season?
Well, it starts with week 1. I mean, if you look at this week and then the next week, I can't get too far ahead in 2018. If you want to look big picture and think about the future, that's one thing. But to go from 0-4 now all of a sudden thinking you can go 9-7, that's a tremendous leap, and that's one I just can't make right now.
Yeah, and I don't know if I want to put that pressure on Josh Rosen. I mean, my concern going into the game is protecting Josh Rosen, okay, and also adding to the playbook to allow him to play to his skill set. So you got to avoid losing streaks. You got to start stacking wins. I want this team to be more competitive. They have in the last 2 games, but I would not put that pressure on Josh Rosen. This is a team game.
And Coach even talked a little bit about that with Trey Boston with the Chargers last year going 0-4 and kind of making runs. So you never know in this league.
Listen, you got to win close games. We talked about this on Monday. More teams lose games in the NFL than win games, and it usually comes down to the last 5 minutes, and that's why it was so important for Phil Dawson to make that kick.
All right, folks. Let's social.
Thank you, Brandon. Hey,
you got a challenge for Brandon for next week?
No, I mean,
okay.
He answered the call here. I mean, I put him on the spot last week, and he came back and announced them in order.
Very well done, Brandon.
Thank you, Mike.
I had nothing for you, a gift or a reward. So you can come back next week. There you go. Congratulations.
I rewarded myself. Our CFO Greg Leah's birthday is today, so there's cake in the break room. So I put some at my desk if I did well and I got to eat it.
I didn't get any cake. Did you get any cake?
There's still some left.
Did you? You didn't bring any for anybody else. You're just thinking about yourself.
I could tell you I got cake on my shirt, and that's why I'm wearing this one.
We'll use that as excuse.
Brandon, we appreciate it. Your questions via social media using the hashtag CardsCover2, using the number 2 to get involved in the show. Real quick, it's not only a Football Friday, but it's Friday Night Lights. You going to the Ahwatukee Bowl, MJ?
That's my plan.
Desert Vista and Mountain Point, the 22nd edition. And by the way, the Cardinals announcing the high school coach and players of the week, Boulder Creek's Tony Casarella and Mesa wide receiver Eddie McClendon. Congratulations to both of those.
The only issue over there, parking is an issue because you got to get there early. So I may take Uber. I feel
you know
bad.
what? Have Brandon drop you off.
No, I feel bad because it's going to be like a $5 fare, but I could
Lyft.
Walk there, but I choose to.
That's right.
Lyft is the partner. Like
Lyft. Sorry. Okay, Lyft. That's right. I have both.
Sure
I have both
happy.
apps on my phone, so it's either or. But I could walk over there.
Well, then get some exercise.
Yeah.
You've got tremendous speed, as we've established here on the show.
4-1.
All right, that's going to do it here on this edition of Cards Cover 2. Special thanks to Tim Delaney, Jim Mahundra, Devin Henry, Jeremy Schnell, plus Grant Greeley, Jonathan Hayward, Brandon Natus, Jesse Aranda, and Jackson Sipes. As we leave you on this Football Friday, let's get everyone hyped for Week 5, Cardinals at the Niners. The first career road start for Josh Rosen, and hopefully, fingers crossed, Craig Grialou, Mike Jurecki, we're talking about a win on Monday. Happy Sunday football.
The NFL is a tough business. Taking the show on the road makes it even tougher. Without a win this season, the Cardinals head to California, hoping to snatch a victory from a division rival. All eyes will be on Josh Rosen in his second NFL start, his first away from the friendly confines of State Farm Stadium. Perhaps the UCLA product will feel right at home in his birth state. Last week is any evidence, the Rosen one was born to sling the pigskin at the highest level. His next challenge is to lead his team to victory in enemy territory. Cardinals, 49ers, Game 5 of the 2018 season. Sunday.